Okay, we're going to go ahead and talk to our student actor. Hey, Sean.
Hi, how are you doing?
I know your mom.
Morning.
Yeah, she speaks very highly of you, and I did watch your video when you went before the Niskayuna Town Board, right?
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah. So really, I got into activism around 2 years ago. I talked to...
2 years ago?
Yes.
Oh, when you were a kid.
No, so I had had a conversation with a refugee from Russia who was fleeing political persecution, and that really inspired me to look at kind of the human face of political policy, public policy, that kind of thing. And then the other thing was, when I was younger, I was around 11 at this time, we had the COVID-19 pandemic, which kind of, I think a lot of us before that maybe felt more disconnected from global events. And now we kind of feel more connected to global events because the COVID-19 pandemic kind of showed that we're not so separate from it, that the whole planet is connected.
The whole planet. It was a pandemic.
Yeah. And so with that in mind, I kind of look at how the intersection of like federal policy, for example, and local issues and the human face, and then what we can do to kind of help people. So one of the things that's been going on the past several months is the immigration crackdown.
With the guys, yeah.
Right. And so...
and it's reaching our community.
Very much so. I think the figure was, and this was as of last year, 2025, that 600 people were detained in the capital region. And
that was last year?
Last year. And that's not even counting.
I did not know that.
Yes. Part of the reason is when a group is targeted for this kind of removal, there is kind of a chilling effect. People kind of go back to their houses. Right. They don't speak out because they're afraid to, lest they be detained or put in a detention center or deported, and so you just don't hear from them as much. But really, it's a widespread issue. So one of the things we've been seeing is people being detained who have no criminal record, who are legal refugees. For example, in January, there was an entire family who was detained outside of a mosque. I believe the Bakhtani family. I don't know how many...
They just targeted them. Yeah.
Right, they were targeted. So this family had... They were respected members of the community, and they were actually here legally. They were refugees from Afghanistan, and I believe that they actually helped the U.S. military.
That was the part of the
right.
crackdown when they took people to protect them.
Yes.
Because they were the translators or whatever
right.
into this country, and now they're throwing them out to the wolves.
Right. So it's a really dehumanizing system. It's really dangerous if you think about it. In my own community in Niskayuna, I go to Niskayuna High School. We've had one man detained since Valentine's Day. He was detained he was driving, I think, to the grocery store. Agents got him. And one of the strategies that agents use nowadays to kind of keep people in detention longer, what they do is they move people really quickly. So this man who was taken on February 14th, he was immediately transferred to a detention facility in Louisiana. And
away from everybody.
Right.
And
away from legal help. So one of the things, and it's really a last resort, but it's a fundamental legal maneuver, is the habeas corpus petition, which basically that's something you file when you're challenging.
You've got steps to go
through.
Yeah.
You want to challenge an unlawful detainment. And that's a fundamental...
it's a right.
Right. It's a fundamental right. So agents need to get around that because more often than not, courts have struck down a lot of these detainments and people have had to be released. Mm-hmm. So in order to keep people in detention for longer, one of the things that they do is they move people really far away.
So because they're hard to find.
Right, because habeas corpus petitions,
I never thought about that,
they have to be filed in the district where the person's detained.
Oh, so they move them.
The legal, so they have to go there. It's
I did not know that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Because I did not know why they couldn't get some legal, no access to,
Yeah. It's a really strange system. It's really disturbing, honestly. I've been to a lot of protests in recent months about this, and I have to say, it is working. There's a lot of public pressure on the Department of Homeland Security to release people who are innocent. And look, I mean, you know, a lot of people support the mass deportation program because they say, oh, well, if you come here illegally, then...
I hate the word illegal.
Right.
Yeah, because, you know.
Me too, but even if we're entertaining that thought, a lot of these people who are being detained are being detained even though they're here legally, even though they helped the U.S. Army, or even though they're, for instance, refugees from Ukraine or Afghanistan, or, yeah.
Well, the one thing is, from what I've seen, is that they put out a directive that you got to get 3,000 a day.
Right.
So therefore, it's like just mass grab people, because it's easier to get that 3,000 if you don't waste any time figuring out if they're right or wrong.
Right. It becomes kind of a dragnet operation, which is inherently dehumanizing, because you're kind of denying people their basic individuality. You're basically assigning a certain level of guilt to every single person that they somehow deserve this, which is not true.
I don't think anybody quarrels with, you know, the gang members and things like that.
Right.
Nobody's arguing with people that are just terrible people that happen to be in that.
Right, right.
But when you start grabbing people that they own a bakery, they're own a restaurant, or
Right.
and they're working on a roof, they're just working hard to, and then you're grabbing them.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. It really is honestly very sad. As a student, you know, I see this as a student activist and an organizer. I try to get as many students to go to protests as possible. And one of the things that I've sadly seen in recent months, a lot of students who are immigrants or or that kind of thing, they're really afraid to speak out.
They're afraid because am I going to be targeted tomorrow?
Right. And I think that most people don't agree with that happening. And I think that really the idea of mass deportations in general, it's a crime against humanity, because
Obama had deportations,
right.
But they did it through habeas corpus. They did they did it with a certain lockstep procedure.
Right.
So it wasn't that this is brand new. I mean, it's been gone under Biden and Obama. I mean, everybody's been involved in that. It's just the method that's happening today. We have, like, you know.
Right, and the scale as well. Because if you anything that's kind of not targeted and not individualized, especially in a democracy, anything that becomes like a dragnet, that violates basic constitutional principles of, you know, now you're creating this group of people who are being targeted. But yeah, that being said, there are a lot of local efforts to combat this. You have a lot of local groups, the New York Immigration Coalition, for example, and what they do is they raise money for, like, pro bono immigration counsel. So they've actually,
if they can get to it.
If they can get to it. But they have been able to get some people released. I think the number as of last year was in the hundreds. So there is
a little bit of light at the tunnel, but the
right.
tunnel's pretty long.
It is a pretty long tunnel. The other thing too that happened was that I want to bring attention to is how Ukrainian refugees were impacted by this. So in January, or I think it was a February memo that was sent out by the Department of Homeland Security, which basically gave the Department of Homeland Security to detain legal refugees in the United States indefinitely. This was challenged in federal court, and the challenge is still pending, so it's kind of halted nationwide. But this actually led to consequences for Ukrainian refugees in the area. So a lot of these people who have fled war and persecution.
They were asylum seekers.
Right. There was one case actually where a woman was interviewed and her relative actually self-deported back to Ukraine because she was afraid of being detained in the United States.
Well, that's the problem, that, you know, because they say you can either go to the gulag or else you can be in self-deport, you know, and so sometimes they have to do that. But yeah, it's just a terrible situation. We're almost out of time.
Yes.
Sean,
Yeah.
thank you for coming.
Yes, of
You know,
course.
I love your perspective and what's going on because you've helped me a little bit.
Of course, I do want to just end on a note of hope here because the fact that we're here talking about this at all, and the fact that we can talk about this is really good. So we're bringing attention to the issue, and as students, we absolutely
We need the
believe,
voice.
Yeah.
We need your voice.
Yeah. Thank you.
Please, yeah. I just want to tell you who's coming on in the next show. We have the Albany Civic Theater, Harbinger Theater, Octavo Singers, and Schenectady Civic Players. And thank you for watching Capital Region Today. I'm going back to Sean. You can watch that or listen to me. So anyway, so Sean, I really appreciate what you're doing as a student to speak out. I had grandsons that were very similar to you and were willing to speak out on other issues, but nothing quite as dramatic as what's going on today.
Yeah, it's a dangerous situation.
But thank you for being here.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Capital Region Today. I'm Ann Pearlie, your host, and also the producer of this little play that we do every so often. So thank you for watching.